So welcome back, kind of. We're online at the moment, and we're doing this because we are currently trying to self-isolate as much as possible, and UTS and Narrative Form and Time particularly has decided to get as much of your content online so we can keep learning and teaching, but also we can think mindfully and take care of our community to make sure that those who are in a community that are vulnerable are safe from this current virus that's going around, but also to try and ease out the curve of this, the people getting sick, that can help us try and control it and potentially stop it from spreading and help our health system so it can handle it. So you know all about that, so I'm not going to go on about that anymore. If this is not the first sprint for you, that means we're still online and you haven't actually met me before. So for those of you who haven't, my name is Peter Wildman and I'm your tutor for the Interaction Design Sprint. And this is my email address, which you can use to contact me one-on-one if you have any issues. But ultimately this video right now is going to be an introduction to kind of the platform that we'll be using for studying online together. So even if you had me for last week, it's important that you watch this so you can get an idea of everything that we'll be using in terms of technology to try and learn online. You may have already had me in the first sprint, but that's okay. I really think it's still important to do an acknowledgement of country because I've asked you to come together, and we're coming together under very different circumstances. So maybe it's important to acknowledge country in a slightly different way. So for those of you that are with us here gathering on this video, I would like to acknowledge the Gadi people of the Darug Nation. And what I would like to do is kind of reflect a bit on why, what we're doing here. And for me, I decided that I'm going to think about this in terms of we're pretty much living online for this time being, trying to get out a little less. What I wanted to talk to that I think is kind of cool that we can think about is even though we might not be out in the world, we can be in the world online. So for me, acknowledging Darug people here and the Gadi people of the Darug Nation, I would like to think that the stories and the knowledge that these people have is online just as much as it's in the world. I want to encourage you all, even though you might be feeling a bit cooped up in your homes, to do your best to keep pushing your curiosity of Indigenous story through the net. And this is something we can all do day to day, is to change the voices, I guess, we decide to seek out to listen to, the stories we seek out to listen to. And it's a very small thing, but for example, if you're looking for a podcast, there's a great program called Away on Radio National, which I like to listen to with host Daniel Browning. And for example, the other week before going to La Perouse, I was listening to this one podcast you can see up on the screen. It's called, this title of it's called One Discordant Note, the 1938 Day of Mourning, where in January 26 in 1938, it was the 150th anniversary of the arrival of Cook, and this really amazing group of Indigenous activists came together to decide to hold the first day of mourning. So they saw that the January 26th celebration should not be a day of celebration, but rather a day of mourning for the invasion that happened on that day. And this is well before January 26th was even considered Australia Day, which only happened later in the 90s. All stuff that you can listen to. But what's really cool for me is, like, when I was listening to this podcast, I heard discussion, because a lot of these activists ultimately were from La Perouse. And La Perouse is spoken about in this podcast as an amazing, strong central part of Indigenous activism in the Sydney, the Gadi area, and the broader Indigenous community during that time. And I think it's really worth listening to, and also starting to connect up the kinds of people that you're hearing from, the stories you're hearing from. So Uncle Greg growing up on the mission at La Perouse, you going there, hearing parts of other stories from there, connecting up as much as you can, because through that you're connecting up to the stories that are here that you might not normally get to. But you got to seek that out, and I'm trying to help you, encourage you to seek that out, but I would 100% encourage you to do so. Another great site is called Indigenous X. Pretty much Indigenous X is started out as a Twitter account. This is its blog version, but you can follow it on Twitter. But as all Indigenous voices, Indigenous people speaking on Indigenous issues for Indigenous people. So there's plenty of other places you can go, but you need to start finding that. And that's a big part of being on country, is listening to the voices here. So it's so important not just to acknowledge the elders that have come before, but also the elders that are here and paving the way forward. And those voices of those elders, those voices of those people who are future elders, are online. Those voices are on Instagram. Those voices can be accessed by you and the way you normally access voice, and in probably ways that you might not have been able to access in the past. So I 100% would encourage you to do that. And as I kind of go forward and I've made that acknowledgement of the traditional custodians of this country, it's also really important for me to acknowledge the Indigenous people with us in this course, who are adding their voices through Uncle Greg's stories as well, along with you. So I just want to acknowledge if there are any of those people with us. Cool. So just to get down now to orienting yourself in where we are for narrative form and time, I'm just going to be showing you a couple of quick websites. So you're already familiar, hopefully, if you haven't missed the first class, but if you have, with UTS Online, where you'll find the subject outline, you'll find the subject documents being pretty much the documents that are relevant for every one of the sprints. Particularly important, the stories of country from Uncle Greg Sims, and the briefs that will outline kind of what you're supposed to be doing for the assessments. And also the outline is very important for your due dates and things like that, and your assessment criteria. Also, what's extremely important are the cultural principles framework, and this is provided from Daniel Hromek, who you may get a chance to meet at some point, but at this point you've already been introduced through us as tutors to Danielle and her role here with Uncle Greg. But these frameworks are super important, which I would encourage you to revisit as you go through the course. But as you've already become aware of, UTS Online is a great place to be for all of your subject document needs. For interaction design, if you haven't had the first sprint, I would recommend that this is a good place for this book. Okay, you get this through the library. It's handy, it's got more information. I would be going through that as you go through the course content as well to get some more depth to that. I would be ignoring a lot of these links because some of them are broken. I'm going to be just providing you with some video tutorials as we go, and some of the other tutors will also. But if you scroll down, you'll find that you have other resources for inspiration. So you need to be going through your process of finding precedents, finding other interaction design ideas, building from that, coming and asking for us to try and help you see if you can build from that as well. So that's where it's important for resources for interaction design. Another important area is email. Please contact us via email, myself via email if you want to speak one-on-one personally with me. This is going to be pretty much where I get in contact with you all through UTS Online as well, so you need to still be checking your email addresses. In the email section, if you go through UTS Outlook, you've got this button here at the top, and these are all your apps. One app that we will be using that's new potentially is this one called Teams. If you can't see it in this drop down, you might be able to get it from all apps, but you have access to Teams. So if you click on this, you will then be led to the Teams app, which is made by Microsoft. You should also hopefully have gotten an invitation to this particular team from me by now. And so this is the team that is set up for my narrative form and time sprint. So when you're in this sprint, your first place will be this post that should just go to, if you click on general. This is just an area you can post like a forum, so if you have any questions, you want to just get a quick post out, you don't want to send me an email, maybe someone else can respond. If they've got the information that you need, you can use this space if you want. The main place to look at in Teams is this class notebook, in which I pretty much outline all of the different areas technologically that we'll be using. So the class notebook links firstly out to the class videos. So that will be this YouTube channel that I have playlist that I've set up. No videos yet because this is the first one, but this is where you'll find the videos that will be the tutorial content. So I'll likely send you out an email saying when the new videos are online, but if you follow this, subscribe, whatever, this is the place where you'll be getting the technical, the tutorial content, video content that I'll be recording. So the second place to look would be to go to is this. If you click on this link, it's GitHub. So I did mention this in the first class briefly, but GitHub is ultimately a place where computer programmers put code. It can be a collaborative space for coding, but we're just going to use it as a space where you can download all of the code from the classes that are the video tutorials. So that'll link to this space. This is my my account, and I've created what's called a repository, and that is where I will store all the narrative form and time code that I will use in the classes. You can click on this down here and download zip, and that will download all of the code from the classes that are in the videos. So here's a really great place for that. We will be running Zoom video conferences as feedback sessions. So we're going to be running those during class times. So those classes would have been face-to-face where we'd do the content, but now you're going to be doing the content on video, doing some exercises, doing your kind of tutorial work, and then we'll be using the face-to-face times, the slots from 3 to 6 on Tuesday, and sorry, I've forgotten the Friday class time, but the class times will be video conferences through this program called Zoom. So Zoom, if you click on this link, you have access to log in via your UTS account. I would recommend doing that before the first kind of Zoom feedback session. You can also download a Zoom client for meetings, so this will be downloaded to your computer. I would recommend doing that and before your first Zoom conference. And if you have any issues with that, first try and click out onto this link, which I've got there back on here on the class notebook, but try and seek help first from the support center, IT support center, through using a request from Service Connect or through the Zoom help website. Try that first. And then if that doesn't work, then I would recommend doing a post about it or sending me an email, worst case scenario, and we'll try and help you get set up or find an alternative for you. But we will be doing it, so this is where we'll be sharing screens, giving feedback, annotating things. That's where we'll be getting technical help live. So any class updates I'll put down here, and here's my email address again. But the only other place you need to be concerned about is this files area. So class materials will be there. I'll be placing slides from previous classes that I did face-to-face. Also, if I forgot to share any other files with you, I'll place them here in the class materials. If you go back to general, to this 5 concepts. This is an example. I'll be creating folders where I want you to upload your work to. So for example, you need to, from the first sprint that we did, the first class, to have done 5 concepts for your interaction design. So those 5 concepts, you click into that folder and just upload your own scanned or digital copy PDF of that. So please make sure you're using your student number and your first and last name in the file name, okay, so I know whose is whose. And I would highly recommend just putting, just for safety, your name on the actual file at the top, so just have your name on that as well. So I'll have a look through that before our feedback sessions, but we can also then, I can open them on my computer and annotate them, and we can all annotate them and draw around and just, have a chat and see what we think of each other's work. So that's where, we'll make sure you're uploading those files there, and then we'll use those in our feedback sessions on the Zooms. So that's pretty much it for this space. And that's it for the first video. I'll be keeping these videos a lot shorter. There'll be just little packages that you'll find in the YouTube channel, and there'll be some technical stuff, some concept development stuff, maybe just some general feedback as well. We'll see how we go. But hopefully everyone's taking care and we're all doing well. And please contact myself if you're in my class and you have any issues, and we'll try and resolve them as best as possible. Take care, and I'll speak to you all soon.